thing was to immobilize him, but I didn't immobilize him, I killed him. Once the video you see, that's all up to you, conclude what you find in it.
I started walking this way, started recording.
Hey, I got you on video!
Yeah, I'm glad she got a video recording, to be quite honest with you.
This is 21-year-old Guillermo Aguirre, desperately trying to cope with the fact that he was caught on camera as he senselessly took the life of an innocent man. And no matter what kind of lie Guillermo tries to spin,
I used my firearm in self-defense. I had to do what I had to do.
He will realize that with the help of that very same video, each and every single one of his lies will come crumbling down.
You're having a lot of anxiety?
Yeah, I just freaking murdered somebody.
I feel like I'm gonna be going to prison now because of the way that I handled that situation.
On July 23, 2022, the sound of multiple gunshots suddenly shattered the calm of a busy plaza parking lot in Farmington, New Mexico. Police were called to the scene after a distressed 911 call reported that a man had been shot during a confrontation with another guy. When officers arrived, they found the victim, 43-year-old Brandon York, lying in the parking lot with multiple gunshot wounds, while witnesses pointed toward a pickup truck that had already sped away from the area. Within minutes, patrol units located the fleeing blue Ford Ranger and stopped it a short distance away. The driver, Guillermo Aguirre, was taken into custody without incident.
315, felony stop with the vehicle, Rocinante. Yule's with me. Farmington Police Department, show me your hands. Keep your hands out the window. Stick your hands out of the window. Occupant in the back of the pickup truck. Sit up. Stand up. Stop where you're at. You, sir. Turn around. Both of you face away. Sir, with the long hair, standing on the ground. Walk back towards me. Keep walking. Keep walking. Stop. Take 3 steps to your left, man. 3 steps to your left. 1, 2, your left. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're gonna go up. Get down on your knees. Put your hands on top of your head. All right, you got hands. Thank you for cooperating.
Walk backwards.
Pull them back a little further. All right. Pull them back a little further.
Okay, yeah. You said you were hitting the back?
Yeah, I was hitting the back of the
That's
head.
the second guy. That's second guy stuff. This is first guy stuff. Okay.
I got hit in the back of the head with a
Do you
rock.
need medical
I'm
attention?
a little bit dizzy. I acted in self-defense. I should not have used my firearm, but he was crazy, and I was trying to help homeless people.
Okay.
And that's
You don't have to talk to me right now. You understand that, right?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna be life in prison now, huh?
Hey, take a deep breath. I'm gonna take your glasses for you, okay?
Okay. I was trying to work on being part of Farmington PD. I was just trying to help the homeless. This guy starts throwing rocks at me, hits me in the back of the head.
Can I look at the back of your head?
Yeah. I should not have used my firearm. I felt threatened. It's probably the lawyer's thing now.
Back at the crime scene, other officers met an eyewitness who had recorded the entire encounter on her cell phone. Here's how she describes to the officers what really went down.
So what can you tell me? What happened?
So I was coming to Chomos, and I pulled in from the turning lane here, and I heard this gentleman. I don't know his name.
Okay, so hold on. You were coming from on Main Street?
Yeah. And I turned
Eastbound?
in
Okay.
here, and I heard the gentleman here
Uh-huh.
tell him, "Leave me alone, you punks, or I'm gonna slap you." And I just continued on my way, went and parked over in the red Toyota that's sitting over there in Chomos.
Uh-huh.
And I got down, and the guys were like pushing him, and he was throwing rocks at him. And I hollered, "Leave him alone, you little punks." And it wasn't stopping, so I pulled out my phone and started recording.
Okay.
And when I was walking towards them with the phone recording, the kid pulled out the gun.
What was the kid wearing, the one that shot?
I don't even know what the clothes were like.
Okay.
I mean, it's in the video.
Okay.
But I just know he had a ball cap on, and he had like long, shaggy hair. The one that done the shooting.
Okay. Was he white, Hispanic, Native?
They both of them look to be white.
Okay. And about how old would you say he was?
Mid to early 20s.
Okay. And what is your name, ma'am?
Chantel. CHANTEL. Or Lotties. I guess I could say the Mexican way you're Hispanic.
Yeah. What's your date of birth? Good phone number for you? And an address? Okay. Okay, so as you were turning into the parking lot, that's when you saw them messing with them?
Yeah.
Is that when you heard him say, "Leave me alone, you punks"?
Yeah, leave me alone,
Okay.
you punks, I'm gonna slap you.
And then after that, you pulled into the parking lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't hear any words when I got out of the car out over there.
Uh-huh.
I didn't hear any words. I just seen them like going towards him and him throwing rocks back at them, and then like they would like step back or something to throw a rock, and then they just like kind of rushed him. The one kid like pushed him.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if he pushed or punched him, but he like kind of like stumbled, and that's when the other kid pulled out the gun and like started shooting.
Okay. So when they were approaching him before he starts throwing the rocks, or at least before you see him throwing the rocks, what were their demeanor
They were
like
just
when
like
they were
standing there like just like
bowed
that.
up?
Yeah.
Kind of. Okay. And you didn't hear anything they were saying to him?
No.
And then at what point did you start recording?
So I got out of my car and I started like walking towards the door. But I like was watching them, and that's when I seen them like start pushing him. And that's when I hollered at them, "Leave him alone, you little punk." So I started walking this way, started recording. And when I was like where that Honda is, just on the other side of the bushes,
Uh-huh.
I was like right there when they started shooting. And I'm like, "I got you on video. I got you on video."
Okay.
And that's when they took off.
Okay. And about how many shots did you hear?
I don't even know. Like maybe between 6 and 10. I'm not
Okay.
sure. Because I mean, I don't know if like when a bullet hits.
Right. Okay.
I don't shoot guns. I don't know.
So you're not familiar with it? Okay. So we have a couple options. What we would like to do, I don't want to put you out of your phone, obviously. I mean, the best way to do it would be download, like take your phone to the station, download the video directly onto our system. But that would take your phone away from you for a while. Would you be able to possibly email that to us?
Able to.
Okay. I will get that.
I mean, I think it's short enough that it'll even send it like in a text message or like an email. And I think it's like total like 19 seconds.
Okay. I may have you do both email and text it to me. And then I would just ask, well, we may have to actually take your phone.
If anything, I'd probably just let my daughters know and my husband know. I don't even know what time it is now. My husband's
7:30.
Oh, he's already home from work. He's probably calling my phone like crazy.
Yeah, because I was just going to have you send it to us, but the only thing is,
The metadata and all that.
right, that, and then also we don't want the video out there and you getting blamed, even if it wasn't you who sent the video, say someone else recorded it, but it got out there. Us knowing that you have the video, you would be the first one we would contact, and I wouldn't want to put you in that situation.
According to the woman, the shooting didn't look like a quick act of self-defense, as Guillermo would later describe it. She describes hearing a rapid series of gunshots, contrary to Guillermo's later claim that he fired only 3 or 4 rounds. Moments later, that same witness pulled out her phone and showed detectives this video in question.
I got you on video!
It's important to note that in the video, it is clearly visible that Guillermo had drawn his weapon and shot Brandon, knocking him down with the first bullet, which means there was no reason for him to fire anymore. But even afterwards, multiple gunshots can be heard. Now, before we get into how Guillermo's interrogation went down, let's have a brief background of how the victim and the perpetrator crossed paths. According to reports, Guillermo owned a small landscaping business in Farmington and was known to recruit day laborers directly from street corners around the city. Many of the men he approached were homeless, willing to take on quick work for very little pay, and that's how he met Brandon. On most days, those encounters ended with a temporary job and both men going their separate ways. But on that particular evening, things didn't go as usual. A heated dispute between Guillermo and Brandon began over something minor, and within moments, the confrontation spiraled far beyond words. By the time it was over, Brandon had been shot multiple times, turning what would have been a routine exchange between 2 strangers into a fatal encounter that would soon draw the attention of investigators across Farmington. Now, at first, Guillermo's story seemed straightforward. He claimed the encounter had spiraled out of control after Brandon started throwing rocks at him, and that he had fired his weapon only in self-defense. He was brought in for questioning, and detectives would soon realize that the sequence of events had unfolded very differently than what was being described.
And your name is Guillermo Humberto?
Aguirre Humberto the fourth, yes sir.
Okay. And your last name is Aguirre?
Aguirre, yes sir.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm sorry I stink a little bit. I haven't showered in about a good 2-3 days, so.
That's fine. And how old are you?
21.
21. You mentioned a girlfriend. Was she present?
She was not. She was going into Smith's. There's some people that live behind Smith's, or so it is Smith's, Albertsons. Where's that? The area in which I was in, that's Smith's, right? Safeway?
Safeway.
That's Safeway. Okay, I get mixed up with Smith's and Safeway. There's some people that live in that back lot over there, and my whole thing is I was trying to get a landscaping deal started, and what I was doing is I was going around town trying to find homeless people that may want to help me with that.
Okay.
So initially,
landscaping?
Yeah, landscaping. So I got some people involved. They were all smoking, shooting up. They were doing all kinds of drugs, and I just figured, I need to remove myself from the situation. In doing so, with me having to remove myself from the situation, one of the guys got up and started calling me rocks, and then he kicked over a lady that I know very well. Her name, we call her Mom. He kicked over her thing. Then he started picking up rocks and throwing it at me, and first of all, I should have been holding my gun like that instead of like that, because that makes it look very bad. But I just told him, you need to leave now, because he started, and the whole thing is I wasn't trying to hold him up. I wasn't trying to freak him out. I was just trying to get him to stop, but he was high on drugs, so he kept picking up rocks and throwing them at me. So as soon as that rock hit me in the back of the head, okay, I felt fear for my life. And that was an instant when I tried to go for his kneecaps to get him to go down, and I was going to call dispatch. But then what ended up happening is I shot him, and then he got up, and then he started saying he has a gun, and then he started reaching for something, and that was in the instant where I just unloaded on him. And I would have never done anything like that.
Let's kind of slow down. I know you're giving a whole lot of information, which is what I definitely need.
Okay, you need me to go slower.
Yeah, so what's your girlfriend's name?
My girlfriend's name is Mackenzie, but my girlfriend's name is Mackenzie. I'm just very stressed out. Mackenzie.
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to identify people who were present, right?
Present, okay.
That way we can go round them up and we can talk to them. And if everything you're telling me is what I need to follow up on.
Of course. So Mackenzie wasn't involved. She was inside of Safeway. She came out to the truck with Gatorade and Pepsi, which is I was going to take it to the homeless people in the back. Okay.
So who was present?
Okay, so Mackenzie was not present. Okay. She had nothing to do with it.
Not present.
She was not present, no. Now, I told my wife that I was going to walk over there and I was going to try to round up some homeless people and see if they wanted to get some landscaping going.
So she was unaware of this?
Unaware of the whole thing. Okay. She came out, she texted me and said, and it's all in my phone if you guys want to go through that.
Okay.
She was unaware, and she basically texted me saying, I'm out in the truck and I'm waiting for you. Okay? So I went out to the truck, we ran out to the truck, which the one thing is trying to catch up to Nick. I was trying to tell him something. I don't know if he heard me, but I was trying to say, we can't flee from the scene. You know, fleeing from the scene is probably the worst thing. He's all, come on, let's go home, let's go home. So of course, in my mind, a flight or fight response kicked in, and I felt like, okay, it's time to leave then. You know, but then again, we should have stayed at the scene as it was, and then we could have handled it there instead. And then, I mean, it probably would have made the case look a lot better than it's looking right now. Because fleeing from the scene is a bad idea. And I know that because I'm working on my GED to become part of Farmington PD, but I don't know how that's going to look now.
So who was present? So you said you
It
approached...
was Nicholas and...
Nicholas is who? Nicholas,
the blonde-haired kid you guys just secured in that felony stop.
Okay, Nicholas. Do you know his last name?
I do not know Nicholas's last name, but...
And how do you know him?
I know him through a group of friends, homeless people that I've gained a liking with, but at the same time, I'm trying to keep them at a distance. But Nicholas is the only one that I wanted to keep by my side because he's one of the hardest workers that I have.
Okay.
And he started this guy started threatening Nicholas. He swung at Nicholas.
So this group of people, you have never met them before? Or?
I've met Nicholas. I've known Nicholas for a while.
Well, the other group?
The other group, no.
Okay. Were you with Nicholas when you arrived at Safeway?
Yes, I was with Nicholas.
Okay, so it was you, Nicholas, and Mackenzie. You show up to Safeway.
Yes,
she
sir.
goes in to go buy some Gatorades. You approach this group of people with Nicholas?
With Nicholas, yes.
Okay, and then she buys Gatorade, puts him in the truck, and she's waiting there?
Yes, sir.
While you're with this group of people?
Yes, sir.
And I haven't been to the scene yet, so which location? Is this where the shooting took place?
So where people panhandle, they panhandle at a bunch of different stop signs, and I'll go and check up on them and make sure they're all doing okay. And they were trying to get this individual I didn't know to leave, okay? They were trying to get him to leave. And he was being crazy. He was threatening to kill Mom, which I did know. When we brought to the group of people, I actually did know Mom. We call her Mom, and she, as a matter of fact, see, the thing is I don't know these people by heart.
Okay.
Like, I don't know them. I've known them
Sure.
for years. I just barely met Nicholas about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I gained a liking to him. We started really getting down on jobs with landscaping. We started doing posts on Nextdoor.
So this group, how many people did you and Nicholas approach that were panhandle or that in that area?
The individual that got shot, and then me and Nick. So that's going to be about five people tops. I don't know who else.
So you approached three people that were there,
Yeah.
homeless people. So this guy you shot and the two others.
Yeah.
Who are the two others? Do you know?
I know that one of them is Ronald. And Ronald was in an altercation a while back ago where I completely I just did not want to associate with any of these individuals at all because I knew I was going to get myself in a bad situation,
Okay,
which is also why I carry around a firearm. Because I feel as if they are going to put me in something bad, but I'm just trying to help them get off. That's my whole thing, and my wife is trying to. So
you and Nick approached Nicholas, the guy you shot, and who was the last person?
Okay, now what are you asking me?
So you guys approached this group of people,
Okay.
and you're saying the guy you shot, Ron, who was this third person that was there?
I didn't shoot Ron.
No, I'm just saying who was present.
Who was present? Okay, the only people I know that were present were Mom. That's how I know her. Okay, she's a blonde-haired lady, a little chunkier. And you got Ronald. Okay.
Right off the bat, Guillermo takes full responsibility for whatever happened without putting the blame on anyone else. But he frames the story in a way that portrays Brandon as the aggressor and justifies his own reaction. Interestingly, his claim of Brandon throwing rocks at him first was confirmed by a few witness accounts, which makes the story he's trying to paint somewhat believable. But as the evidence starts lining up, his version of events begins to show some serious cracks.
Here's a marker. Let's do this. So here is this huge building complex. You know, you got Best Buy, Petco, that clothing store, and then Safeway.
Okay.
And then we have we have this restaurant here.
Okay.
And then you have...
So where's Safeway at?
Safeway would be right here.
Okay, so in the parking lot, this is where I was parked. Okay.
You're parked here.
It's parked here. Okay. Now let's go up here. Okay.
In the back?
Just draw a square right there. Yeah. Okay. Now there's a square, that location, there's a hole in the fence in the back. You're going to find a couple holes in the fence. Okay. You go through that back area. You go up in there, there's a foresty area. You go all the way back there, that's where you're going to find Mom. That's where you're going to round up all these people.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure they're going to be fled before y'all get to them.
Where did the shooting happen?
Okay, so the shooting in the parking lot. So if my truck is right here, This is the outlet, right?
Yep.
That goes in the
To
street.
the main street, yes.
The shooting happened in this vicinity.
Oh, okay. Just right here, right off
Now,
the main street.
me and Nick walked from the truck all the way over there to see if we could help. We could get these homeless people to start working.
Okay.
And that was my whole thing. We were walking over. I had my firearm with me and I had my taser on me. Okay. Now, initially, I knew what I was getting into. I just had a bad feeling with the whole situation. So we walked into here, and there was a group of people here, obviously panhandling. The stop sign's right there. Okay. Now, there was an individual that was laying down right here. Okay. And that individual, native man, he was really high on drugs or whatever. So he was threatening to this lady that was right here. As far as I know, he was threatening. And I just had got there. Okay.
Okay.
Didn't know anything. The guy I shot, okay, was threatening to hurt somebody, or they were telling him he needed to leave because he was being disrespectful and a bunch of other things. So as soon as that happened, Ronald said, okay, you're going to have to tell that guy to leave. Okay, so I just got up and I said, look, Nick, I got to go. Okay, I told Nick, he's like, no, you're going to stay with me. Okay, obviously I stayed. Okay, and I was just like, well, let's tell him to leave. So he started yelling at me and he started calling us just all kinds of stuff. And he was high on drugs. So at first my plan was to walk back to the truck and call dispatch. But then I knew that Ron was there and Mom was there. And I know they do drugs. Okay, so I didn't want to get them involved in that because they're junkies as is. They don't have a life.
Okay.
I'm trying to help them out. Now, as soon as that happened, this individual starts throwing rocks at me, picking up piles of rocks and throwing them at me. And I had 2 or 3 that hit me in the back of the head. As soon as he started throwing projectiles at me, he hit me in the back of the head. And then he started to reach for something. Okay. And in any type of footage, I swear I saw him reach. As soon as he reached for something, I did pull my gun out and I did have it pointed at him. Or generally just pointed at him, get him to leave, say, you need to leave right now. Because, sense of, I didn't know if he had a firearm. I don't think he did. There's no reason he should have had one. But I was fearing for my life, So as soon as I just saw him picking up rocks and all this, then that's when I discharged rounds.
Okay.
And the whole thing that bothers me is that I was trying to go for his kneecaps, but he didn't do a damn, I should have left at that point as soon as I discharged rounds, but it just leaving, I should have stayed at the scene, period. I just didn't know how in the hell to handle it,
Sure.
So then he started he was already on the ground. I should have let him be, but then I unloaded my magazine. I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I had no intentions to hurt him. I had no intentions to do anything to him. I did not know who the individual was. I just knew that he was being crazy. He was kicking stuff around. He's throwing rocks. Honestly, if I had an air taser on me, it would have been better, but obviously I'm not a police officer, so I don't have anything like that. OC, nothing. I did not handle it in a proper way, so, I feel like I'm going to be going to prison now because of the way that I handled that situation. I just wish that none of this ever happened because I'm not trying to hurt anybody.
Let's focus in on this one little corner over here where everything took place.
I understand.
So here is the outlet, and here's Main Street.
Okay.
I'll put Main here. And here's the way to get in and out of the Smith parking lot.
Okay,
And here's a parking lot here. When you and Nick come walking up,
So this is where the stop sign is, right here.
I'll put the stop sign right here.
Okay, perfect.
Where was this guy at? Here, I'll give you this. Where was he at?
Okay, so you got Mom right here. You got her cart.
Put M there. For Mom, just put the M that way I can keep this up.
Okay, and it's not my mother. We just call her Mom.
I
She's a
understand.
friend of mine. Okay, and then
She has a cart.
Yeah, she has the cart. Okay, you have a bush right here, and you have Ronald.
Okay.
Now you have
Put an R next to him. I'm sorry.
Okay, you got Ronald. Okay. Now you got the native individual. He was laying down right here.
Okay.
Okay. Now, according when I got there, this native individual had dumped stuff into Mom's cart and was threatening to kill Mom. Okay.
Okay.
That's what I heard. Okay. That's what I heard from a bunch of them.
Okay.
Mom, him, Nicholas. I wasn't in any of the conversations. I was talking to Ronald because I was trying to get Ronald up to go and help his wife, he calls, that's living in the back of Safeway, right? So basically what happened was I stood up and I walked over here because Ron said, hey, this guy's got to go. You got to peacefully tell him to go. Now, obviously, any of these people aren't going to want the police to show up.
I
Because
agree.
they have
Yeah, I
drugs on
understand.
them, And I didn't want to do that to them because I'm trying to help them get off of it, So initially what happened is this individual that was laying down, okay, he starts getting up. He's calling Nicholas. Okay, me and Nick are right here. Okay, I'm here. That's Nicholas. He's calling Nick. Okay, and everything under the sun. And then the guy, he starts freaking throwing rocks at me, kicking shit around, starts aggressing towards me. So as soon as a rock got thrown at me and hit me in the back of the head, I stood up and I discharged rounds into him. Okay?
Which way were you shooting?
I shot directly that way, and yes, there is a gas station over here.
Okay, so you were shooting from.
Well, I made sure to try to shoot him in the kneecaps, but I couldn't immobilize him because I had a taser on me. Okay, I mean it's not an air taser; it's not as fancy as what you guys have. Okay. But I didn't want to aggress.
Did you use your taser or not?
No, sir. Okay. But I tried to tell him to leave. I tried to say, "Hey, look."
So everything took place by this bush and mom's cart.
Sidewalk. Okay. I was sidewalk. Damn it. Okay, so. Basically, rocks, aggression, kicking, it's going to be all on camera. There's a lady over here that was recording. She said she was. Okay. Over here, I backed up from him. Okay. Right here, I pointed my gun at him. Okay. This is really difficult for me to explain to you, man. High stress situation. Okay. It's all going to be in her recording, or it's going to be just trying to do my best for you here.
Okay.
Okay. So, this guy's just projects. He starts throwing projectiles, and then hit me in the back of the head. I felt fearing for my life, and I tried to, immobilize him. Am I doing good, or am I screwing up?
No, I understand what you're saying. So you shot towards. How many times did you shoot towards his kneecap?
I don't know. I mean, you guys have to see that in my gun holds a good 24 rounds, I believe, maybe less. I don't know. It's a double stack magazine. Okay. And I carry it on me for self-defense, and I open carry. Was not concealing my firearm. It wasn't open.
So you don't know how many times you shot towards his knees?
A good. The thing that bothers me is if I don't give you a rough estimate, then it's going to come down on me. 4 or 5.
Well, just do an approximate. 4 or 5, you said?
Good 4 or 5.
Okay.
I mean, at least. And when he was on the ground, I continued to shoot, but I was trying to aim for his knees, and my aiming wasn't right because I'm not a marksman.
Contrary to Guillermo's manipulative account, the physical evidence at the scene tells a much less forgiving story. The arriving officers recovered no weapon anywhere near the victim, declaring he was unarmed. What they did find were the shell casings, not just 4 or 5 as Guillermo claims. There were at least 10 casings found scattered across the pavement, all consistent with rounds fired from Guillermo's Taurus handgun. This means that Guillermo's reaction wasn't a few defensive shots fired in panic, but a sustained burst of gunfire. The autopsy also confirmed that Brandon suffered multiple gunshot wounds, several of them entering from angles consistent with him already being down or turned away. In other words, the shooting simply continued long after Brandon had been grounded. And then there's the piece of evidence that would ultimately make Guillermo's version the hardest to maintain, the cell phone video we've already seen. Unaware that his entire act had been recorded, here's how Guillermo shapes up his narrative going forward.
So Mom and Ronald were there, Nicholas was there.
Yes, sir.
And this guy was throwing rocks. Who did he throw rocks at?
He threw rocks at me and Nicholas was peacefully trying to get him to leave, and I was peacefully trying to get him to leave. As soon as I pointed my firearm at him, I said, "Look, you need to leave now. I felt threatened for my life." Okay, so I pointed my firearm at him. Okay, and I wasn't holding it properly. Okay, but I felt threatened. I thought he was going to walk away. He didn't walk away. He continued to aggress. And the whole thing is with me is I didn't know if he was going to chase me down. I didn't know if he's going to come. He's older than me. He's older than Nick. I didn't know if he's going to chase us down. I had no idea what was going to go on. So I used my firearm in self-defense. I had to do what I had to do. And, I've lived with an alcoholic father for years. I've had to deal with stuff like that before. Now, in the case that I've never discharged around to anybody, this is the first time that I've ever had to use my gun for self-defense, and I should have never had it on me. Because I've seen cases like this. I watch Blue Activity all the time. I've seen cases like this where the guy that acts in self-defense is the one who goes to prison, and plus, I don't even know if that guy is dead.
What kind of rocks did he throw? You described rocks.
Gravel.
Just gravel?
Chunks of gravel.
And how many times did he throw chunks of gravel at you?
3 or 4 times. And the best I can say is recording is the restaurants around, and there wasn't a lady that was recording, but she didn't know the gravity of the situation.
Okay. So you approached the situation that was already...
Yeah.
It was
already going off.
Okay.
And these people I understand they're homeless, but they're also, and I know they're, and that's the whole thing with me is I'm trying to help these people, but there's just some people you can't help. I should have ran my landscaping business by myself, and Nicholas is a very hard worker, but he's the only one I should have kept. But he shouldn't have been staying with me in Mackenzie, period. And he's living out there. All his belongings are out there as well. And then he started picking up gravel, and he started throwing gravel at me and Nick, just piles and piles of gravel. So that's, of course, I had pulled my firearm out, and I said, look, you need to leave now, okay? You're freaking everybody out, and you're freaking me out, first of all. That's, of course, whenever he's like, what is that, a gun? You're and that. Okay, so he starts, I'm trying to relive it, okay?
Sure. In sequential order, because you bounced around, and now I'm trying to place. Yeah, you said that. You mentioned about the gun thing. When did that happen?
The gun happened, I'm pretty sure, after he kicked it, okay? I wish I could give you a whole... Okay. Once you see the video, you will see everything, okay? If the street lights are recording, business is recording, you guys do a full investigation, which I'm sure you will. You will see all angles of what happened, okay? But I'm going to give you the best of what happened. I'm not trying to lie to you in any way, shape, or form. So the guy kicks it, okay? Flies past, okay? Picks up gravel, starts throwing it, okay? This was in a time, I had told him to leave. I said, look, you need to leave now, okay?
At what point did you get your gun out? Is the main
I got my firearm out as soon as, I got my firearm out as soon as he started rolling into threats, started to get crazy, kicking, throwing, just all kinds of stuff. That's when I had my firearm out. I pointed at him and I said, look, you need to leave. You need to leave now, okay? Because I felt like my life was in danger. I was protecting everyone else around me, but at the same time, I was protecting myself.
And this guy here was just kicking gravel?
Just acting crazy. He was high, drunk. I don't even know what he was on. It had to have been carry the firearm. He's like and that, and as soon as that happened, I brought it down from center mass to the kneecaps. I fired at the kneecaps. That'll be in the recording. You'll see that. Fired at the kneecaps. That's whenever he did that, and he's like, "What's that? A gun? This and that." And it's insane to me because anybody would react completely differently when they see a firearm. I was trying to defuse the situation, but I did it wrong. Period. You should never bring a firearm out unless the aggressor has a firearm. But then again, you never know if they have a firearm. That's why I was saying, reaching for something. As soon as his legs went down, I could have swore I seen him for reaching, okay? Reaching for something in his back pockets. And that's when I continued to just let it out, because I did not have any record. I didn't know if he had something on him. I didn't know if the individual was going to get back up, because people, they could take a lot. They could take a beating. So I didn't know if he's going to get back up, try to get me, pull me down, take my firearm, and then start shooting everybody else. I don't know. Take my taser, beat somebody with it.
Notice how carefully Guillermo is shaping his story here. He admits to firing the first 2 shots, and even says he should have stopped there. But then he drops in a detail to justify everything that came after. According to him, Brandon reached behind his back, and Guillermo took that as him going for a gun. But the problem is, none of the evidence supports that version. Neither was there a gun on Brandon, nor was he trying to reach for anything as we have seen in the video capturing the shooting.
What you just described here to me, when did the rock thing happen? You said you got hit in the head with the rock.
I did get hit in the head with the rock. He did pick up a pile of rocks and he did throw them at me.
Okay. Was this when you had the firearm at him, or were you?
This is when I had the, honestly, so as soon as I told him to leave, this is when I had the firearm at him. He started just picking up rocks, but he was already getting aggressive as is.
Okay.
That's where I started.
Where did you get hit with the rocks?
Right there.
Okay. How did you get hit back if you're pointing your gun at him?
Okay, so I really need you to see the recording.
Okay.
I'm trying to work with you.
Sure.
I'm not trying to lie to you at all. Okay, so he picks up the rocks, pile of rocks. He throws them. Okay.
What were you doing at that time?
At that time, I was trying to dodge it. I was putting my head down. I had my firearm was out when I was dodging him.
Okay.
Did not have any recollection of wanting to shoot him. Okay. So I put my hand down, and I was just taking the hits in the back of the head. And of course, that's whenever I went and I aimed for his kneecaps. Boom, boom, 2 shots. He was already down. I should have left it at that. And then that's, of course, when I felt like he's going to reach for something, he's going to stand up. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? Mm-hmm. Try to chase after me or Nick. We're younger than him. I can imagine he probably has more strength than us. So then, basically, he was already down, and then I shot him a good couple times. I don't know where the bullets went. They probably went directly into center mass. And like I said, my gun hopped around because I was aiming for his legs.
What happened right after you shot? What did you guys do?
We ran. Okay. Fight or flight response. Okay. Should have stayed at the scene. Okay. I wish I stayed at the scene, because that just looks terrible. I wasn't planning to leave, my whole thing was to go and find a place to recuperate, not flee. I wanted to find out if he was okay. I wasn't going to flee the scene. because I did not want to be on the run.
Okay.
I was going to honestly give myself up after I did it. I wasn't planning to murder him, and I just did.
Okay.
It was not my plan.
All right. So when these rocks were hitting you, did anybody else swing a punch or throw a punch?
I couldn't see after that because I had my head down, so I had my firearm and I had my head down, and that's when I got hit in the back of the head with the rock. The whole thing was to immobilize him, but I didn't immobilize him, I killed him. That's not what I was planning to do. I was trying to get his legs so that way he was immobilized so he couldn't move. I did not want him to get up and hurt anybody else. Once the video you see, that's all up to you, conclude what you find in it.
Okay.
Because it's a video, I'm glad she got a video recording, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
By this point, it's certain that Brandon attacked Guillermo with rocks, an event confirmed by eyewitnesses as well. But the sequence of that occurrence is important. Brandon did hit Guillermo with a few rocks, but that was before the first bullet was fired. According to available evidence, after Brandon was hit by the bullets, he practically became harmless and never continued the attack. At this point in the interrogation, the detective hasn't yet watched the bystander's video that captured the shooting, so for the moment he's still evaluating Guillermo's explanation at face value, even as some of the details begin to raise doubts.
You mentioned a lady that was recording. Can you describe her to me?
She blonde hair, heavy set, I think, black leggings, and she probably is talking to other detectives at the scene at the moment. She may be, as far as I know.
Okay. And you saw her, how did you know she was recording?
She was recording because she said, "I have you on recording," because people like to do that these days. They think that it's a game, and it's not. But it's okay, I'm actually glad.
Is this as you were leaving, she said that to you?
Yeah, and I'm hoping she's talking to detectives because that's going to be a lead for you on the whole case. I mean...
And after you fired, what happened next? What was going on with the group of people?
Okay, so after I fired, everybody's like, "We gotta leave, the police are coming," and then my fight or flight response kicked in. I tried to catch up to Nick, like, "Dude, we gotta stay." I wanted to make sure the Navajo man was okay, that I discharged the shots into, just to make sure that he was okay, but then we ran because I didn't know if he was still mobile.
Who was the first one to run?
Nicholas.
Nick was the first one to run?
He was the first one to run. We both pretty much, I would say he was the first one to run because he started to run, and then I ran to catch up with him, so we both ran at the same time.
Okay. And Mom were still there?
Yeah.
As far as you know?
As far as I know, and then they probably fleeted to the back of Safeway. And it's going to be really bad because I'm now throwing them under the bus because they have drugs back there, and I'm pretty sure they do. I don't know anything about it, but I already know that I'm sure they do.
Okay.
They're on. They gotta be.
So, you're talking about, as you got there was already a situation going on. How long do you think you were there before you
I was there for a good 12, 13 minutes.
Okay.
12 or 13 minutes, I'd like to say.
That you were sitting in the room with, or sitting on the curb there with them, or?
Yes, sir.
And you were trying to get them to, what was your deal with them? You mentioned.
I was trying to get them to all, I didn't care about the guy that was laying down. I was mainly trying to get Ron's attention. That's the only thing that we really went over there for.
Guillermo brushes off the mention of the witness casually and quickly shifts the focus back to his own version of events. He starts talking about the chaos right after the shooting, how his partner Nicholas ran away from the scene, and how he hesitated, unsure whether to stay or leave. But that cell phone video he's downplaying would soon become the most important piece of evidence in this entire case. In the aftermath of this case, the bystander woman's testimony completely dismantled Guillermo's version of events. Based on the video, the physical evidence found at the crime scene, and the victim autopsy report, the detectives had enough to determine this was not at all an act of self-defense. Guillermo eventually accepted a plea deal, and in early 2024, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison, receiving concurrent terms for the murder and assault. Our thoughts and prayers are with Brandon York's family, and everyone else who knew him as a hardworking man trying to make ends meet. Thank you for watching today's video. Whether you're new here or have been with us for a while, check out one of the craziest cases I've ever covered right here, or one of my newest uploads right here.